Happiness lives within, and it doesn't live in the external things. And the reason why it's so hard to see through this illusion is because society actually profits off you not knowing this, right? Because the whole model of if you have this dream car or this dream bag or this life that looks full and all the money and all the luxuries and all the comfort, you're going to be happy. But then you see people that have actually achieved that, whether it's celebrities or just people that have quote unquote made it in life. And usually the experience is not quite what it's promised to be. And it's always got me thinking of what is the point of gaining the world if you lose yourself? Like, what is the point of gaining the world if you lose yourself? Because of this, and the older that I got, the more that I just saw these patterns of I was always seeking and chasing, and I never quite got that fulfillment that I thought that I would get from it. And it made me more curious and it made me more intentional to actually seek the truth behind why fulfillment was not in those things, because that's what we're told. That's what society paints, is that you have all these things externally, like a tick box, and once they're all ticked, then you should be happy. And that's what got me on this whole road and journey to actually figuring out what fulfillment really is. And these are the things that I learned along the way and that I realized. I think the first thing is realizing that happiness comes from within. And this is such a hard concept to grasp because everything is so externally focused. Like, even when you go to school or when you go to university or when you live your life, it's all about achieving the good grades and achieving the money and achieving this external success and having that appreciation from other people and that validation from society, from your parents, from your friends, from strangers, from loved ones, whoever it is, right? Like, it's constantly focused on how you're doing all these things for your life for that external recognition and that external place. But what I began to realize is it has nothing to do with those things. Those things can enhance your baseline, yes, but it's not where happiness actually comes from. Because if happiness came from those things externally, then we would all feel it, but it's subjective, right? Putting happiness on things outside of you is not going to actually give you that fulfillment because it's temporary. Things outside of you are always changing and they're never constant and they're also unpredictable. So if you're giving away your power, aka your happiness, to these external things, then you're setting yourself up for misery too, because when that thing gets taken away or it changes or it evolves, the happiness is not going to stick. When you realize that it's really important to actually live a life through purpose and figure out what that is and actually work towards it, work towards building whatever that purpose is. For example, one of mine is speaking and sharing and just really helping people. That's really my purpose. And as a kid, I was always really articulate. I was always really, someone that loved public speaking, was very confident, was very enthusiastic. And as I got older, I think that started to change because, I had this fear of being seen and this fear of people's judgments because it was all coming from the external world of those limiting beliefs. And when I decided to say, you know what, screw all that, I'm just going to do it anyway, when it came from a place of authenticity and not from a place of being performative, that's where I started to really experience genuine fulfillment. Because when you have a purpose and when you know what that is, or even if you're going on that journey to discover what that is, and when you actually start to follow your heart and follow your purpose and follow your dreams despite the external, when you can really shut out that noise and follow what's been placed upon your heart and be devoted to it, that is where a really beautiful sense of fulfillment lies, because you're finally utilizing your energy and your life towards something that excites you. And so that's one of the ways, is actually having a purpose, which we all do have, and finding what that is, finding a purpose and just doing it. It's not about trying to be perfect. It's not about, caring what other people are going to think. It's not about how it's going to look to others. Start to do things for yourself. Start to do things for your own benefit. Start to do things for your own good. Start to do things because you want to do them, not because people are making you do it. And when I started to live from this truth and this self-acceptance, that's when I really started to grow. Another way that I think has really given me this inner fulfillment is being happy alone. And this one is really interesting because, especially as generations go by, we live in a world that's connected with social media and connected on the outside externally with appearances, but it's also where we are the most disconnected from ourselves. I'm not saying one size fits all, but for the majority part, social media and the external world, there's so much distraction out there. There's so much to do. There's so much to see. There's so much to fill up your time with, to the point where we subconsciously start to avoid ourselves. We start to avoid the discomfort. We start to avoid the limiting beliefs or the triggers or our internal world. And the reason that we do that is because the external, it's so easy to just try and pivot and go out and distract, right? And distraction isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but when it happens excessively and when you actually start to lose connection with yourself and your own purpose and your own trajectory and where you want to go in your life and that direction, that's when it can become really detrimental. And so one of the things that has given me inner fulfillment is actually the happiness that I find within being alone, that I find within just being by myself, working on my internal state, working on that authenticity, working on bettering myself, and actually being able to be bored, being able to reflect, being able to introspect, and finding this devotion to self and being okay with just having moments of stillness. Ultimately, when you can be happy alone and when you can find that fulfillment within yourself and it's not powered by something outside of you that determines it, that's when you're really free. And that's when you actually have a sense of freedom because your happiness no longer depends on something outside of you. The only constant thing in your life is yourself. You are born alone, you die alone. And you're the only person that you really have. So when you can be the source of your own fulfillment, you stop needing it from things outside of you. I'm not saying that the externals can't give you that happiness. They absolutely can, and they have, and they've enhanced my life so much. And we all like the finer things in life, but it shouldn't be the source of where you're getting that happiness. The true beauty is when you can turn off that noise, shut it out, and actually find that beauty within stillness, within isolation, within solitude, within getting to know yourself, within having faith, having devotion, following a purpose, having that confidence to just do it no matter what people think or say. If you want to build a life full of peace and happiness and joy, it actually is a lot more about your inner world and creating that garden within yourself than trying to create it outside of yourself. And knowing this has really changed my life because I've become a lot more self-aware. I've become a lot more grateful because, again, gratitude and seeing your life as a blessing and looking at the glass half full and all the abundance. And I made a video about gratitude, but really having that devotion, that love for yourself, for a higher power towards God, having a purpose and actually being committed and devoted to the journey, that is what is going to bring you that fulfillment. So get out your comfort zone, start to follow those dreams placed upon your heart and realize that sky is the limit and you can actually achieve this happiness if you start from within and if you start working on yourself. And when you realize that inner fulfillment is the key to life, because when you can be the source of your own happiness, you no longer are succumbed or surrendered to the world to give it to you. And there's a great beauty in that.